Hello friends, today we will talk about SAP jobs and interview preparation. How to go about preparing for it. That's what is the topic for today. This topic I have prepared because of lot of people need, I will say, more of help in this area because lot of people are struggling with clearing interviews in the SAP field. Be it a fresher, be it an experienced person, it really does not matter much. So that is why I have prepared this document along with this video to explain the things what needs to be kept in mind and what needs to be done in order to secure one SAP job as such. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. And before I proceed further, it's my humble request to you all that please like and share this video with all your people. Okay, and whoever needs it, this particular thing must reach out to them. Okay, let's move. So I welcome you for SAP FICO happy learning. Okay, so today these are the topics which we are going to actually cover up with regard to contents is what is mentioned over here. So we will be covering up on the detailed planning and action plans to be put in place for the new job search in SAP FICO area, prerequisites before the SAP FICO interview, understanding the JD, otherwise also called as job description of the job applied, how to prepare the resume, types of SAP project works mentioned in the job description or JD, general interview versus project specific interview in SAP FICO area, some other important points to be kept in mind, and finally the conclusion. So these are the things which we are going to cover up during today's video. So let's start with the detailed planning and action plans for the new job search part. So here you have to plan that how you are going to start search for the job or how you will start locating the suitable opportunities for you. So there are many ways to do it. For example, you can search it in the LinkedIn post, you can check it on the job portals, you can get some on the company's website also, you can get a lot of job opportunities as such, right? So you need to plan on how you are going to search the new jobs, particularly in the SAP field. Then even your network, I mean here I'm not talking about the personal network, I'm here purely talking about the professional network what you have and which you have built over a period of time, that also you can use. And even if your friend is working in some companies, they can give you they can refer you in their company and you can apply for the job over there. Your interview will happen and then further process will be carried out. So all the possible ways you need to ensure that you need to find out, okay, these are the things I am going to do and these are the things, and ensure that you are making a note of it. Please remember one thing, job searching is not an easy task, it is a serious activity. So everything with regard to this need to be taken into consideration, that how the new job opportunities will be checked out or how it will be applied for, right? Also you need to plan an end-to-end scenario, just like what we have in SAP field, that end-to-end business scenarios. Here I am talking about end-to-end job search scenarios. You should have all in place, and if one idea doesn't work, you must also have a backup plan to support that idea and ensure that you are on track whenever you are searching for a new job. It doesn't matter whether you are a fresher or you are an experienced person. Search process is more or less same. It hardly differs except in terms of resume. There is not much of difference as such. And if at all you feel that you may not have enough knowledge, enough exposure, enough understanding, enough learning how to go about doing it up, if at all needed, please take some professional help also to do this planning and execution activity. There is no harm into it. Even if you need to pay some money for it, please go ahead, do that. Remember, this is related to your career, right? For your future, for your happiness, for your prosperity, lot of things are attached to this particular activity. So even if it needed, go ahead and spend some money and get these things done. But remember one thing, you need to be in the driver's seat all the time. You cannot let your vehicle drive driven by somebody else. Okay, in that case you will suffer loss. Don't let that happen. Kindly ensure that part. So that's why I have written that detailed planning and execution thing you need to prepare and make a note of it, and then one by one keep on executing. Okay, now let's go to the next slide. What are the prerequisites before the SAP FICO interview? What all things you do, what all things you are supposed to do, rather I will say. Always, suppose you have decided, okay, I will go ahead with this company to search the job over here. So always first and foremost thing is, please do a research about that company. Check on the Google, check with your connections, check with your network, check with your friends, check with your colleagues. There are many different sources from where you can do a thorough research about the company where you are applying for the job. Okay, then please go to some websites like glassdoor.com, and then there are some other websites also which also lets you know that what all kind of benefits the company is offering, because it is not just only about the monetary benefits. There are a lot of non-monetary benefits also many company offers, something like ESOP and lot of other things are there. So you should also research about what all the benefits company is offering. And after that, the next item which you should explore is how is the work culture of the company, whether the company is having stressful work environment or a proper work environment, how is the work life balance, right? How are the policies of the company? All other relevant things, you must ensure that you have the detailed knowledge and information. This activity sometimes you may feel that is very time consuming and other things, but remember one thing, once you do this activity, not only you will get to know a lot of information about the company, you will be also in a position to whether to you will be in a position to decide that whether you should even apply for the job over here or you should just leave it as it is. To arrive to a right decision, some research and development work, as I said, always call it as R&D work, you need to do. Then you also need to research about what is the current financial status of the company. Lot of data with regard to the profit and loss account and balance sheet about any company is usually available on the internet. So that also you can search on. That will also let you know that okay, how is the company doing from last few years, what all their future plans are, and where the company is heading into. Remember, it is very important to search all these things because your entire career, your learning, your earning, lot of other things are completely dependent on these things. If needed, reach out to some old connections or old employees who were either working for the company earlier or who are still working with the company. Reach out to them in some way or the other. They will give you a lot of information which will help you to arrive to a right decision, and that will also help you into multiple ways how to go about doing it. Other than these things, if any other point also comes to your mind in terms of like Overall things you need to do a research, because some companies will be smaller in size, but they might give you some good opportunities. Sometimes big companies will be there, but the opportunity which you might get may not be suiting your requirement. And remember, everybody has their own preferences. That's why all these parameters and factors must be considered, and these all things you need to do even before you apply for the job. That's why I have written these are the prerequisites, something you need to do before you start your actual activity, right? Okay, now let's move on to the next slide. Let us understand what is a job description. Remember one thing, JD is not just a JD. JD basically gives you the kind of activities, kind of actions, kind of role, kind of responsibilities are expected out of you once you are selected for the given job. It is basically a mirror in which you can see what all things you will be expected to do in your new assignment, right? So you always need to do the detailed study, or whatever things are content of the JD. You must go through, read it word by word, try to understand the meaning, and if you are not able to comprehend the meaning, take somebody else help also. There is no harm into it. Okay. Then next thing would be, check out what all the different or new skill sets are needed in order to perform the given job description efficiently. This is again very important. Sometimes we also find that if there is a skill mismatch, there is a fair amount of chance that you might not be able to perform the job even if you are selected for the job. I have personally faced it in some of my one or two of my earlier assignments where it was really very difficult to survive in such scenarios. So this is a word of caution. Please take care of this part very due diligently, I will say, right? Then you also need to identify out of the skill sets mentioned for the given job requirement, in how many skills you are very strong, and in what all areas which need some improvement as such, right? So whatever is a strong area, you need to revise that part, and whatever is not so strong area, you need to work little bit more extra into those areas, and make sure that you are ready for the interview basically. And then you may also find some areas where you really do not have any touch base with. That means it will be something like what we call it as fit gap analysis in SAP Activate methodology, right? So whatever you know, that is absolutely fine. But whatever you don't know but written in the JD that you are supposed to know this. So in that case, you need to find out what all those points are there where you really have no clue what it is and how this can be done, right? And then you also need to ensure that you need to do some activity by maybe self study, or maybe take some KT or some training or something to fill those gaps. Unless you fill those gaps, you will not be fully ready for the job. Okay, so do that analysis and then do some activity in order to fill the gaps as much as possible. Probably fully 100% filling the gaps it may not be possible all the time, but more you fill it up, the better it will be. Then you also need to find out how the urgent is that job requirement. Many a times people say, boss, it is only in a week's time it is going to start, in 30 days it is going to start, right? Sometimes your current company may not leave you in 30 days time or in 45 days time. As long as India is concerned, standard rule is 90 days of time, that is 3 months of time, right? So just check that part also, that how urgent the job requirement is, and talk there talk to the concerned people, whether it is a vendor or the HR or whoever has contacted you for a given job opportunity, that how urgent this job requirement is. Okay. Next, before you proceed further, check in your organization what is the policy, what all things they follow in terms of what is your workload in your current assignment, whether you are a key resource for the given project, what is the notice period, whether if you talk to your manager, will they be able in a position to release you from the project and company little bit early. So all these factors you need to check, and that's why I have written understanding the JD of the job applied. So all these factors you need to keep a focus on, right? Let's go to the next, resume preparation. One area I will say should be ideally taken into consideration with thorough due diligence, but what I have so far seen is most of the people miserably fail into this area. They think that one size fits all. They just prepare a single resume, and the same resume they keep on dumping to every job opportunity they come across. A very, very wrong practice, I will say. Remember one thing, when you go to a showroom to buy a cloth, do you buy the same clothes every time? Really? Or do you buy every time a similar kind of clothes? Whenever you go, you buy only one item. Does it happen like that? No, right? Same goes with the job as well. So every time when you visit showroom, you you earlier only in advance you decide that which color, which texture, which fabric, which size, and which variety of the dress you are going to buy. Same way, resume needs to be prepared for each of the JD which you come across where you are planning to apply for the job, right? That's why I written prepare a customized resume for every new job you are applying for, right? Then keep the JD in mind when you are preparing or updating your resume. Remember, every job is unique. It will have unique challenges. It will have unique opportunities. It will be unique into many different viewpoints, basically, right? So your resume also should be unique for the given job opportunity. Then next is whatever JD is looking out for in a candidate, you need to give little bit more focus into those skill areas. Suppose, let me give you one example. Suppose somebody has put up in a requirement that person is supposed to know the product costing, for example. So do not write just product costing as such in the resume. Give some the detailing of it, and not just writing it in the resume. You should also know the meaning of it, what is the usage of it, how it will impact to the overall functionality of the system, and all other related factors. Writing just one line in resume is not enough. You need to show your true picture via your resume. Remember, nobody will see your face, they will see the resume, and they will read the resume, and based on that only it will be decided whether you will be called for the interview or you will be denied even before you get a call for the interview, right? So this is a very, very important point. So write all the important skills in your resume properly, then get it reviewed by some experienced person as well. Do not assume that everything you know or whatever you have written is perfect. If time permits, let it get reviewed by somebody else as well. Give the JD to them and give your resume also to them and say, boss, as per the JD, please check whether this fits or not. So since this is a very, very serious work, so you must pay the right attention to this work. Otherwise, this can decide whether you will be called for the interview or you will be disqualified even before the interview, right? Then once your resume is ready, please ensure that you are revising it as many times as possible. Why? Because many a times minor issues will be there. Resume should be absolutely neat and clean. It should not have too much of formatting, and it should be written in a way that anybody can understand clearly. There should not be any confusion. Do not write very, very small fonts on your resume. It is very difficult for the people to read it, and if they are not able to read it, they will just throw away your resume. They have hardly any time to go through a resume if it is not being properly presented, right? And one very important point is whatever you write in a resume must be there in your mind as well, must be there in your experience as well, must be there in your understanding as well. If you write something and if they ask one question out of it, you must be in a position to reply it well. If you are not able to reply it well, be sure that you are going to lose that opportunity. And finally, the last point is, in some cases, people also ask for other than resume one cover letter as well. So if requirement says that you need to submit cover letter along with the resume, so prepare that also accordingly as per the requirement. Okay, let's go to the next topic. Types of SAP projects work mentioned in the JD. By looking at the JD, you should be able to find out whether it is an implementation project or support project. Check whether they are working currently in ECC system or they are already in the S4 HANA system. Also, if it is ECC system, then do they have plan to move it into S4 HANA system in the near future? If yes, what they are doing in that area, what activity the client is performing in order to move into S4 system, right? Then you also need to check what is the duration of the project. That means since how long, if it is a AMS work, since how long it is going, and how long the company has the contract to carry it up, right? So all these things you need to check. If it is an implementation work, then you should know at what stage you are entering into the project, right? Whether you are entering at somewhere in the beginning, or you are in the middle, or just before the company code is or company is going to be live, you are just joining the project too. So at what level you are joining, that also is very very important. Then you also need to find out whether the given JD is for freshers, that means people with zero or little experience, or it is with some specific details like, okay, you need minimum 5 years of hands-on experience, or maybe 10 years of hands-on experience, and in some cases more than that as well, right? So when you get a JD, please check all these points, and if at all you find any doubt where you need clarification, so whoever has given you the JD, please get it clarified with them so that you can prepare for all these points very well in advance and be fully ready for the interview to face, right? Let's move on. General interview versus project specific interview in SAP FICO. Again, a very very interesting topic to discuss on, I will say. Remember, there are a lot of varieties of interview like mass interviews or project specific interviews, right? Weekend drive or weekdays interview. Weekend drive means many people will be there. That means the requirement of the candidates are big in numbers. That's when the company conducts the weekend drive where a lot of people come for the interview, right? If it is a weekdays interview, then you need to check your schedule and availability for the interview and check your calendar that whether you will be free at that point of time or not, right? Also, one very important thing is whether interview will be conducted in the virtual mode or in person mode, right? If it is in person mode, then you need to get ready and go to the right place where the interview will be conducted, or you need to reach out to the company's office. If it is virtual mode, again you need to prepare there also very well, be fully ready. Mostly nowadays video interviews are conducted by various ways, right? So you need to be right at the right place with the right mood, right? Your dress up should be correct, and there should be good network connection. You should have a good laptop with a webcam and all other related settings. You need to check all these things well in advance and be available on time. Very very important. So keeping all these things in mind, you need to prepare accordingly. Remember, mass interview is happening or weekend drive happens when there is a big requirement. Suppose couple of projects are coming to a company and they need lot of manpower. In that cases only they usually conduct the mass interview or maybe the weekend drive kind of activities, right? But if there are requirement only for particular niche skills or some skill gaps are there maybe in the project team, and for that if they are hiring, then it will be project specific interview. The moment you will be selected, you will be directly absorbed into that particular project. So that kind of interview is called as project specific interview, right? Let's move on to the next, general interview. So in case of general interview, here I am talking about, it is not a project specific interview. Okay, all basic concepts must be very clear to you. Okay, you should know how the ECC system works and how the S4 HANA system works, and also what are the differences between the two systems, right? You need to prepare for the both. The various kind of accounting entries and other related financial terms you must be very clear on, something like P2P cycle or OTC cycle, or maybe asset accounting, or it can be, there are a lot of areas in which accounting entries comes into the picture, right? So your accounting entries are coming into the picture, so you should know what is the accounting entry which will take place for a given kind of business activity or business transaction. Then you should also have an idea that whether it is a fresher's job or experienced job, so apply accordingly. Then whatever area is there, for example in FI side we have basic settings, we have GL, we have AR, AP, assets, banking, right? All these areas you must be preparing very well. If it is CO side, in general cost center accounting, profit center accounting, and internal orders, all these three items are usually coming to the picture. But then there are specialized topics like COPA and product costing. If that also is part of the JD, then you need to prepare all these things accordingly. Along with all the integration points also must be given its due importance, right? And while you are preparing for all these things, keep an open mindset and try to cover up areas as much as you can. Probably, even from the interview perspective, you may not be able to cover up everything, but the more you cover, the better it would be. Okay, let's move to the next. Now, project specific interview. So, if it is a project specific interview, then it will be clearly mentioned in the JD also that what all skill sets they are looking at, right? So you have to go into a JD side little bit more into detailing and get to understand what the JD is looking out for. And whatever the points are mentioned, you need to give extra focus into those points. Again, all basic concepts must be clear to you. Now, since it is a project specific interview, you can also cross verify whether it is for the ECC system or S4 HANA system. You can check it in advance and get the information and then prepare accordingly. Accounting entries and other financial terms will be applicable as usual. Mostly in such cases, freshers are not expected. Mostly people apply with experience over here. And all the areas, whatever is being mentioned, suppose they are writing cross-module issues, then FISD, FIMM, FIPP, FIPS, right? All these things you should know how it works. FIHR, you have to be fully ready with it, right? And when interview is happening, you must show that you are ready for the all activities to perform which will make the project job much easier. You have willingness to learn lot of new things and you have hunger for the learning, right? And you should have a clean mindset. You should also show your team player mindset as well. In some interviews, this is expected from you that you are a team player and you are ready to contribute for the whole team. Remember one thing, any kind of SCP project is not being done by a single individual. Usually it is done by the teams, right? So you must be a good team player as well. Let's move on to the next. Interview preparation content. Again, a very interesting topic. So all basic concepts must be clear All I mean by basic concept is what is company code, what is a profit center, what is a controlling area, what is fiscal year variant, right? There are too many lists. The list is very lengthy, and that is why topic wise I have not mentioned over here. I have simply written very clear across all submodules of SAP FI and C as per the whatever is being mentioned in the job description, right? And you should have good knowledge and understanding of the functionalities offered by S4 HANA system as well. Many a times people know in ECC only, they are still comfortable with ECC, but they don't have much exposure to the S4 HANA system. That will be considered as a very weak point in your resume, and then you might even miss out some good opportunities. Don't let that happen. Prepare well in advance and have a thorough understanding what what all new things which is being offered with S4 HANA system, which is not available in the ECC system. For example, CVI, customer vendor integration. For example, business partner is a standard setup in S4 HANA system, right? AC Doka table, and there are a lot of things like that, right? In asset accounting also a hell lot of changes. So kindly prepare accordingly. Now we have various kind of project work which is being mentioned, right? Suppose interview is happening from the implementation and rollout project, for example. So what all things you need to keep in mind? You should have all the configuration areas. It can be configuration of anything, all the settings wherever the configuration is involved, be it any module of any sub module or module of SAP within the scope of SAP FICO, right? Then you should also understand how the cross module functionality works, right? FIMM, FIT integration works. You should have very good command over that. You also need to find out that in which industry the actual client is working on. If it is a project specific interview, please try to find out that and understand that industry also. Suppose it is an automobile industry, then you should have some idea about how the automobile industry is currently doing, right? It gives you an edge over others. Then various testing scenarios and cutover activities. Testing scenario, I mean, it can be unit testing, it can be integration testing, it can be black box testing, it can be stress testing, it can be a regression testing. There are many varieties of testing. If it is an implementation work, testing will be anyway, by default it will be available. So you should know what all different testing scenarios are there which you are supposed to perform, and all the cutover activities which are the very important part of activity list of activities which is being carried out just before the system goes live, right? Good understanding of the system landscape. What is system landscape, how it works, what all things are in the scope, you should be aware of. The various kind of business process also you should have an understanding. How the invoice is raised, how the payment will be done, how the third party STO works, right? There are many scenarios, intercompany transactions, forex valuations, and many more such stuff, right? Then you should also know what all the different applications which will be used in the implementation project. For example, HP ALM, right? For example, it can be solution manager. It can be there are many applications which can be used. Sometimes I have even seen people are using service now also for such kind of purposes, right? Sometimes they can use like Microsoft SharePoint also is being used extensively for a lot of things, right? So ensure that you are aware of the various kind of applications which can be used for that purpose. Then you should also have a thorough understanding about ASAP methodology, which is a recommended approach by SAP for the ECC implementation, and SAP Activate methodologies, which is used for S4 HANA implementations. Right? You should know each and every step of these methodologies and what all activities are involved into all of these activities. Then you should also understand whether it is a waterfall methodology or an agile methodology. Please remember the working style of waterfall methodology and the agile methodologies are completely different of each other. So you have to understand the differences. So they might ask some questions sometimes from these areas as well. Then you should also be very good in terms of various kind of documentation which is being used in the implementation and the rollout projects. We have lot of documents like business blueprint, as is and to be analysis, then gap analysis, then rise of itself will have lot of things like that, right? So all these things, then we have TSD, you have CSD, you have FSD, you have BRD, you have SOW, you have POC, and whatnot. The list is really very long. You should be comfortable with all these documentations which is being used. Then you also need to be have good understanding with regard to how an interface works, whether it is an inbound interface or it is an outbound interface, and how it is getting connected with the third party systems, and what is the middleware which is being used, whether it is PIPO or some other uh, I will say the middleware which can be used, right, to connect the various systems. It can be a connection between two SAP systems also. It can be one SAP system and one non-SAP system as well, right? Then what all different techniques and tools are used by the implementation team to upload the various kind of master data and the transaction data in the SAP system. It can be via BDC, it can be via LS100, it can be via LTMC, and then there can be some custom programs as well which can be used for that purpose. So you should be having awareness and understanding of all these things, right? Next, how if suppose during testing somebody has got some error and that person has raised one defect, right? As long as project hasn't gone live, it is called as a defect, right? So how the defect resolution is going to work in that organization, that part also you are supposed to know. They might ask sometimes, do you know what is called as a defect? So then you should understand what is a defect. Then you also need to find out if it is an implementation work, at what stage you are entering into the project, whether it is beginning stage, somewhere in the middle stage, or almost going to close that project, and that time you are joining the project. That will also help you and to understand what kind of activities will be expected from you. That will be decided by the stage in which you are entering the project, right? So keep that point in mind. Then what will be the duration of hypercare and transport management related process also you should be aware of, which is very important from the implementation and the rollout project point of view, right? Transport management means, I mean, transport request movement from development to the quality to the production, right? Next, now talking about AMS, that is application management and services, right? Project and enhancement and development projects, which is also called as the support project. So whatever we have seen earlier for the implementation and rollout project, that is available anyway. But you also need to understand, other than that, whatever points are here, which is extra, which is not being covered in the previous slides. So you should have knowledge on how the AMS project works in the real-time scenario and how the tickets are handled and resolved, right? You also need to have understanding that what is the application they are using to maintain the record of all the tickets and tasks, right? Also you need to keep certain tickets ready to explain in the interview if at all they ask that, and some cross modules issue also, because if it is a support project, definitely they are going to ask you couple of tickets which you have handled and resolved from your end, and you should have some of the tickets handy in order to explain during the interview. Now you also need to prepare some critical issues which you have handled independently. In my previous interviews and experiences, what I have seen many a times, people ask this query. So if you are ready with some critical issues which you have handled, but don't explain something like number range maintenance or some small or tiny issues which can be fixed in 2 minutes time. That is not called as critical issues. Critical issues means multiple users are impacted at one go. Then only it is called as a, or if some issue is there which is impacting the business finances directly. In all such cases, It is called as the critical issues. You should also know how the SLA process works and what all the different categories of incident. For example, it can be P1, P2, P3, P4, P5, and the timeline can be depending on case to case, because in each and every project these timelines and the categories actually differs. Then you also should know how the TR movement process will take place in case of an AMS project, right? So that means you should be aware of the current running system landscape available in the system. Then you also should know that how the various documentations are carried out in terms of FSD is functional specification document, SOW is the statement of work, BRD means business requirement document, etc. I have just given few, but there can be many more depending on how the business is. Suppose business says that they need to develop a new report altogether. In that case, you will have to write all these things with the business logic and other things with the all technical details as well, right? Now, coming to the remaining important points, okay, which is very important from the interview perspective. Ensure that you are properly dressed up for the interview and try to be formal. Okay, don't people nowadays take the dressing sense a little bit more casually, but that should not be an ideal approach. You should be dressed smartly to appear in the interview, whether it is an in-person interview or a virtual interview. While interview is happening, always pay attention to what is being told to you, right? So always try to listen first and respond later. You don't need to be hurry in order to answer anything and everything. Always give a chance to the interviewer to ask the questions, and if at all something you do not understand properly, please ask once again that, sir, I did not get it, could you please repeat it again. There is no harm into it. Ensure that you are available or online on time so that the interview can start on time. If at all for any reason you are getting late or getting delayed or you are not going to attend, please communicate to the other party in advance, right? Not in the last moment. Be little bit more focused into that area, because next time then the same company will not entertain you. So ensure that you are communicating this well in advance if at all there is any delay or you are not going to attend it. Do not waste others' time, make sure of it, right? When you are talking during the interview, ensure that you are talking confidently, and that confidence must come from your voice. Also, many a times people are not flexible in terms of, okay, do I need to travel, do I need to go to various locations, do I need to work into various shifts. There can be many other job requirements which job would require you to perform, many other roles and responsibilities and duties and timings, right? If you don't have flexibility to bend yourself in order to adjust with the job requirement, then the chance of getting selected will be really very less. You have to show the willingness and the flexibility to adapt to the new job requirement. That is how it is going to work for you. So these are some of the important points you must keep in mind, right? Let's move on to the next slide. Now we have reached to the conclusion of this particular presentation. So to sum up, the points are very clear. Prepare very well for the interviews. You also need to do the practice for the interview as many times as you feel comfortable. Many a times due to nervousness you are not able to explain during the interview some concepts very clearly. But if you practice it well, that time that practice will help you during the interview as well, right? Always be serious about the job opportunity which is given to you. Don't take it lightly, because if you take it lightly, even the job can take you very lightly, and the moment it will find you are not suitable enough, it can also throw you out very comfortably. You will not even feel it, right? So be very serious about it. Then talk confidently during the interview, okay, and show your flexibility and willingness to adapt to the new environment, right? Okay. Now, if at all you have any questions, you can put up in the comments, or you can even drop an email to the given mail ID in this. This is the last slide. Thanks for watching this video. Kindly like and subscribe this YouTube channel. I will try to bring some more interesting topics where I will give some tips and tricks to understand lot of things. Okay, this is actually a time consuming process, but then I feel that I should help people to understand, to grow in their career, and that's why this entire effort is dedicated to the people who need job in the SAP side. These things are usually not written in any of these books or any of the places, but then these are all which is being keenly observed during the whole exercise of interview. So your performance will ultimately decide whether you will land something in hand or you will not land something in hand. So in that case, so please take care of all the above points. It is definitely going to help you in a big way. On the occasion of New Year 2024, I wish you all a very happy New Year and may God bless you all. Bye bye. Thank you.